Hello everyone, welcome back to our podcast, the FTX Safety Reboot module. Last week we were looking at online gender-based violence. Today we are going to look on creating safe space online. My name is Cecilia Maundu. I'm a broadcast journalist. I'm a specialist in gender digital security training, and I'm also a tech blogger. Karibuni. The FTX stands for Feminists Tech Exchange. It is a training curriculum made up of several modules for trainers who work with women's rights and sexual rights activists. This podcast has been made possible by APC, Association of Progressive Communication. APC is a worldwide network of social activists who use the internet to make the world a better place. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who took time to listen to the podcast last week on online gender-based violence. The feedback was amazing. I'm still getting back to you with the questions that you asked. So today we are going to continue with our podcast. We are going to look at the model of creating safe online spaces. So let's first ask ourselves, what is a safe space online? What does it mean to say that this space is safe? This module is about facilitating learning and building capacity on creating safe online spaces. This module will explore the different ways through which feminist and sexual rights activists can create safe spaces online. This will be done through activities and discussions. So, as you remember, FTX has learning objectives, and one of the objectives of this module will be, first of all, we need to define what is a safe space online. How do we come up with strategies to create these safe spaces online? We'll also be able to develop an understanding of privacy issues and how privacy affects women and their lives. So the best part of FTX is the learning activities. As I said earlier in my podcast, FTX is more of an interaction. That's what makes it so unique compared to other training modules. FTX has come up with activities for every module, and it is through these activities that participants and the trainers get to engage and they get to learn from each other. That's my favorite part of FTX. So under creating safe online spaces, the first activity will be unpacking safe. Well, unpacking safe, you might ask yourself, is what? You might ask yourself, what is unpacking safe? The main purpose of this activity is for participants to express their own definition of a safe space. How we define safe space is on an individual basis. And so many factors affect what we call individual spaces. It could be religion, culture. So many factors affect how we define safe spaces. It could be religion, culture, sexual orientation. So under this activity, every participant will be able to define in their own terms what they think a safe space is. So this activity has 3 stages. The first one is on individual basis. That is, an individual visualizes what is a safe space, and then we come to a small group discussion about safe, and then we go to the whole group to reflect and discuss and identify the commonalities of what people think is a safe space. So what is the objective of this? The most important objective is to define what they mean by safe or private space online. So when it comes to the individual mechanism, you can give your participants 10 minutes. And one way you can do this is ask your participants to close your eyes. So wherever you are, can we close our eyes? Let's try this practically, people. So we close our eyes. And for your information, my eyes are closed as much as you can't see me. So as we close our eyes, let's envision a time in our lives when we felt safe. What are the factors that made us feel safe at that particular moment? And it could also be imaginary. It doesn't have to have happened. It could also be imaginary. You also have an option of drawing this time in your life. So let me give you my version of safe while my eyes are closed. The time I felt so safe in my life is me seated on the shores of the beach at night, and the waves are roaming and they're hitting the shores. It's not about the beach or the time, but the sound of the waves. They calm me down, and the fact that I'm from an island, I'm an island girl, I still feel safe because I'm home. So that is my definition of safe. What is yours? So to the mechanism. So to the first stage of this activity, remember I said it takes place in 3 stages. The first stage is on individual, the second one is in a small group, the third one is in a group. So on the first stage, tell your participants, you as a security trainer, to close their eyes and envision a time in their lives when they felt so safe. The time and place. And remember, it doesn't have to have happened. It can be imaginary. So let's try this practically. Wherever you are, close your eyes and think of a time when you felt so safe in your life. Where were you? And it's not even about the place. What made you feel safe at that moment? As for me, I'm imagining myself seated along the shores of the beach at night, and the waves are hitting the shore, and there's a full moon, and all I feel is safe. It's not about the beach as much as I'm from the island. It's about how the sea is rolling, how it's just taking its natural course. The second stage is now going back to small groups, and participants share their idea of safe in terms of what they thought in the first stage, what they visualized, what made them feel safe. And remember, it's not about the time or place. It's at that moment, what made you feel safe? As I said, for me, it is me sitting along the shores of the beach at night and the waves rolling, and I feel like everything is going to be okay. And then after that, after you share this, you exchange ideas. The purpose of this is to ensure that each participant has time to speak about what they visualize. You get to share and even get to learn from other people. What is their idea of safe? And remember, you could also draw the time and the place in which you feel the safest, including the elements and the factors that make you feel safe. And then after you've been in your small groups, now you go to the main group, all the participants. This is for the purposes of to process the word safe. And people here come up with different ideas, and the purpose of this is for people to get the commonalities from your responses, and paying attention and highlighting factors that can be applied to online spaces. So that's the end of our first activity. I know it's very fast. The second activity is develop your internet dream place. First of all, let's ask ourselves, what is a dream? You've heard of the saying, dreams do come true. I know it sounds like a cliche, but people, go with me. What is a dream? I know you've heard of the famous saying, dreams do come true. I know it sounds like a cliche, but people, roll with me here. What is your dream of a safe online space? So in these activities, participants consider elements of an online space where their community can thrive, depending on the goals of the group and workshop. So in this activity, participants consider the elements of an online space where their communities can thrive, where their communities can exchange ideas without the fear of intimidation, where sexual rights activists can express themselves without being condemned. So what is the objective of these activities? The objective of this activity is to come up with strategies on how to create safe online spaces, not only for themselves, but for their network. The objective of this activity is to create safe online spaces, not only for themselves, but for their networks. We want to know that the people we care about are also feeling safe online. We want to know that the people we care about and the networks that we interact with feel safe online. This activity is for the people who participate on online spaces. And the first stage, let me call it stage, is to ask ourselves a very important question. Why are we online? The other day I was reading a joke, and somebody was like, somebody sent me a message and told me there's a life outside online, and the other person responded, send me the link. Okay, I'm sure I've cracked your ribs. So the first question we ask ourselves is, why are we online? Why is it important for us to be online? We are living in the era of the digital revolution. Our lives have just been taken by a storm, and we are all online. So, but the question to ask is, why are we online? Why do we need the internet in the first place? So, in this conversation, participants talk about their experiences online and what they are doing online and why the internet is so important in their lives. So, in this activity, the participants will break into small groups, and then as a digital security trainer, you'll have designed questions for them. And these are some of the questions you can be able to ask them. Why is this space significant? Why is the internet space significant? Who is it for? Who is it not for? How can you make sure? What kind of things do people do in this space? What are the rules? Who can be online? What are the regulations? What can people talk about in these spaces? And who has the responsibility of managing this space? And then as we are in our groups, people will answer these questions very creatively, and they will be able to share their presentation and have their participants ask questions and be able to clarify and also say why they came up with the answers that they did. So in our group activity, as a facilitator, you'll have questions for your group, and some of the questions is, why is it important to be online? What is the significance of the online space? Who is it for? Who is it not for? What kind of things do people do in this space, you included as an individual? What are the rules of these online spaces? Who can join? Who cannot join? Who has the responsibility of managing the space? And in this group, people will come up with different responses, and they will be able to come up with presentations which they will share with the rest of the group, and the participants will be able to ask questions which are constructive, where they can exchange ideas. All these ideas are in creating safe online spaces. Because remember, this module is about creating safe online spaces, especially for feminist and sexual rights activists. Under this module, there's also making online spaces safer, and there's also an activity, and it's titled Making Online Spaces Safer. The goal of this activity is to go through the privacy options for accounts and groups of the agreed, that is, you have to agree, of the famous social media sites. A considerable number of people are on the online spaces, and they're using social media platforms. So the goal of this activity is to go through the privacy options for accounts and groups of the agreed upon. This is an activity to make the dream places real, including addressing the challenges of current design and the policies used by these social media platforms. This activity is very constructive, considering that most of us are on social media platforms. How can we put this social media platform to task to be able to help us create safe spaces online? So a learning objective in this activity comes up with some strategies to create safe online spaces for themselves and their networks, and also gain an understanding of the privacy limitations of social media. If I might pose a question, and you can answer it through my Twitter handle, how many of you read terms and conditions? I can already guess, but I don't want to make any conclusion. So let's go on. After you've sat down in groups and and discussed on how to come up with ways of making social media platforms safe online, after sitting down and discussing, the participants can now converge and express their ideas on how to make these social media platforms, both from an individual level and also putting to task the social media platforms. So that's the end of our podcast today. I hope you've been able to learn something. In case you have any queries, kindly send me your questions. My Twitter handle is @CeciliaMaundu. Again, my Twitter handle is @CeciliaMaundu. You can send me your questions or your contribution, and I will talk about them next time. Again, I want to thank APC for this generous funding. All this would not have been possible without your input. Asante sana. Thank you so much.